New Testament Christians will typically want to focus on the person and life of Jesus as their main directive for the ethical life. So whatever Paul says and whatever some of the other apostles write, the Jesus character and teachings and actions is always central and used as a hermeneutical key for understanding the rest of the text, both Old and New Testament. In the life of Jesus, we have two episodes where it looks like animals are, if not being exploited, certainly being either consumed or killed. So in the one case, we have Jesus eating fish that's offered to him even in a post-resurrection context. So this is the glorified Christ still eating fish. On the other hand, we have pre-resurrection Christ performing a kind of exorcism where a bunch of evil spirits are taken out of a person and cast into a herd of swine. You sort of wonder why there were swine being herded in a kosher context, but in any case, there they were, and then they end up running off a cliff and all falling to their death. What do you make of those two passages?
Right. So first off, I think we need to, when we talk about Jesus, we have to talk about Jesus within a kind of broader theological vision, right? And Jesus in the traditional Christian narrative is not just the incarnate Jesus, right? But the Word who was in the beginning with God, the one through whom and for whom creation was made. So there's an ontological connection, if you take the whole arc of the narrative seriously, between Jesus and every other link of creation. And Paul, right, talks about Jesus very, very explicitly as the cosmic Christ, right, the one who reconciles the whole world to God, right, including animals, very explicitly in some of these passages. And so when we talk about Jesus, we need to talk about Jesus in that arc. And so it's dangerous, I think, to pick and choose a few odd cases, right, and make those normative cases for what Jesus would think about animals, full stop. Having said that, in the case of Jesus eating fish, seems to me, you know, the history of the relationship between God and God's people, as that story is told, is a history of concessions to human fallenness. It's a history where God meets God's people where they are, warts and all, and often allows things or does things that are not in keeping with God's first wishes, but are things that in fallen circumstances, you know, come to pass. When it comes to Jesus' diet, we don't really know too much about Jesus' diet. We do know, though, that he ate fish. I'm inclined to think, though, that in those passages, the important thing is not that he ate fish, but that he ate food, right? I mean, keep in mind that in the context of these people meeting the resurrected Jesus, there would have been other religions at the time, and even Judaism, certain sects of Judaism at the time, thought that after a person died, their ghost would appear in various places to reconnect and assure people that they were well, that they had passed into the afterlife without consequence, that they didn't have to worry. So it was crucial to the Christian narrative that Jesus convey to these people that he's not a ghost, right? That he's not just an apparition appearing to assure them that he's okay, but that he is back in the flesh. And eating, right, is something very visceral, something very human. And to show that, you know, he was fully resurrected, he ate, you know, what the disciples had on hand. It seems to me that making that about Jesus eating fish is just a hermeneutic mistake. I mean, incidentally, Jesus ate fish, but I don't think we want to draw moral lessons about what we as 21st century Christians ought to do when 90% of the world's fisheries are depleted and on the verge of collapse, or, you know, when we have other alternatives, or when we no longer view fish as ancient people did, as in a different ontological category from hooved or four-legged creatures. So there's all those hermeneutic considerations to take into account.